Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you guys are. Guys, smash the like button on this video. As you guys know, I really need you to smash the like button. I really need you to hit the subscribe. There's a lot of you actually that are watching my videos. 50% actually that are watching my videos and not subscribing to my channel. So what I would say to all those people, please, if you can subscribe to the channel, because I need more and more boxing fans to subscribe to my channel. What happens is when you guys subscribe to my channel, and if you do enjoy my videos, my breakdowns, my talking about negotiation, talking about what promoters have to say, breaking down what's going on in boxing, do subscribe to my channel, because what happens is YouTube will start pushing my videos out to more people like yourselves, and that will help my channel grow. So I would appreciate it if you guys can smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, because it just helps me grow. So please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and also share the videos to your friends, people that are into boxing. It'll just help me grow. But yeah, moving on from that boring stuff. Eddie Hearn has said that if Canelo Alvarez can beat Golovkin and Bivol, he will be regarded as one of the greatest fighters of all time. Now, this is a very generic statement, and the reason why I say this is, what does one of the greatest fighters of all time mean? Is Canelo Alvarez one of the greatest of all time if he beats Golovkin and Bivol? It depends on how big that list is, yeah? Because I was one that I said if Canelo was to become undisputed at 175, you'd have to consider him as one of the greatest of all time. I mean, depending on how big that list is, because, you know, there's many fighters that you can dispute, like Pacquiao. Man's a legend, 8-division world champion. Mayweather, there's guys in Canelo's around his era that were better than him, in my opinion. Pacquiao and Mayweather were standout fighters, were exceptional, in my opinion, were the two greats. And I think they were better than Canelo, in my opinion. So Canelo, by beating Bivol and Beterbiev, I think Canelo puts Canelo in their category without question, because I think he'd be doing something would be phenomenal, because he'd moving up weight class and beating some guys in their prime like that are very difficult to beat, and undefeated, by the way. So I think it's going to be difficult for him to do that. I don't mean he's going to become undisputed at 175. I think both guys, Bivol and Beterbiev, I would pick to beat him. But that's why I think what Eddie Hearn is saying, not by beating Bivol, I think he'd have to become undisputed at 175. And then he'll be considered one of the greatest of all time. I think greatest of all time, depending on how big that list is, maybe top 20, maybe top 30. Maybe some people might have him in their top 10, but I don't know what greatest of all time really means, because there's so many great fighters that people say he's one of the greatest of all time. So when that list becomes so big, how can you say a top 30 is one of the? But then, having said that, look how many fighters and great fighters there's been. If you're considered a top 20, top 30 fighter of all time, you are effectively one of the greatest. But this is what Eddie Hearn had to say. He's beaten everyone at middleweight. He's beaten everyone at super middleweight. I don't agree with that. I think there's guys at middleweight that he still needs to fight, and guys at super middleweight. So I think there's guys like Benavidez. Now, he beat all the champions, current champions in his time, at the time, but there's guys like Benavidez. There's guys like Charlo and Andre that people have been crying out for him to fight for a long time. So those are names that I think he'll have to fight if, you know, in order for you to say he's beaten everybody in those weight classes. But Eddie Hearn says he's beaten everyone at middleweight, beaten everyone at super middleweight. He wants to do something different. He wants to test himself. All of a sudden, you get beaten. It's a terrible mistake. You shouldn't have done it. You should have taken an easier fight in your weight division. This guy who has done it all, and we should respect for trying to be great. Now he comes back, fights Triple G, and he wants to go straight back into the Bivol rematch. If he beats Bivol in the rematch, what do we say then? Greatest fighter of all time? Then goes now to the big question, or questions. Can Canelo beat Golovkin? And can he then defeat Bivol? We are presumably all in agreement as to which task is the toughest for Canelo. Of course, Bivol. Then again, GGG has always given Canelo nothing but hell. And who knows, coming off that loss to Bivol, Canelo might not be the same fighter mentally he was in 2008, 17, 18 when he drew with Triple G in a close decision. The Bivol rematch will be tougher than the tough fight for Canelo, especially if it's 175 again. Bivol has said he would perhaps come down to 168. That ain't happening. What happens if Canelo loses to Bivol again? We don't know. Yet we can appreciate the fact that Canelo, 57-2-2 with 39 knockouts, wants to try and get his revenge. How many fighters have we seen in the past who, when they lose to a guy, wanted absolutely nothing to do with him. This is clearly not the way Canelo operates. Whether you like Canelo or not, you have to give him respect, and I totally agree with that. I think Canelo Alvarez, whether you like him or not, I think you have to respect the fact that he wants to get back in there with Bivol. And people trying to say that Canelo doesn't want to fight Bivol and he's going to avoid that fight, Canelo hasn't suggested anything to suggest that. Everything that I've heard Canelo say, and his promoters now come out and say that Canelo wants to fight Dimitri Bivol. Why would Canelo Alvarez not want to fight Dimitri Bivol? You know, Canelo Alvarez is a true competitor. He's lost 2 fights in his whole career. You know, probably should have lost against Golovkin as well, but he's lost 2 fights to Mayweather and Bivol. Now, he never rematched Mayweather because the Mayweather fight was never going to happen. It was one-sided and Mayweather was the A side. In this fight, Canelo was the A side. And Canelo has the power, and Canelo is the cash cow. Against Mayweather, Mayweather was the cash cow, and he decides and picks and chooses who he wants to fight. So Mayweather and Canelo rematch was never going to happen. And when Canelo became a star and became developed in his prime, Mayweather was finished. You know, so that rematch was never going to take place. But in terms of this fight between Canelo and Bivol, Canelo holds all the aces, he holds all the cards, because Canelo Alvarez can fight Dimitri Bivol, and I believe he will fight Dimitri Bivol again. Makes a lot of sense. Canelo Alvarez is a competitor, and I've said this before, he wants to avenge that loss. He wants to avenge that loss to Bivol. I believe that he has a chance. You know, it's very difficult. I won't be picking him to win, but, you know, maybe people are overlooking Canelo's chances now, because when you get beaten like that, and he was beaten soundly, all of a sudden people write you off and say you've got no chance. That might not be, like, we might be overestimating how good Bivol is. Is it a case where Bivol is that good? Are we underestimating Canelo Alvarez now that he's got beat by Bivol? Maybe Canelo had an off night. Canelo said that maybe there could have been issues in camp. We don't know. Maybe Bivol's just a better fighter. But these are all things that are going to be determined in the second fight, because if Canelo gets beaten like that again, that just shows that Bivol is the better fighter. And Bivol will beat Canelo regardless. He's just overall more skilled. If Canelo Alvarez is not able to come up with a game plan in order to beat Bivol the next time, then that will show that Canelo Alvarez has met his match. Canelo Alvarez has gone up to a weight class where he can no longer compete at that weight class against the elite in that division. So that will limit Canelo Alvarez. That people will say Canelo Alvarez went to 175, tried his luck, and he wasn't good enough against those guys. I think a lot of fighters in his position probably wouldn't take that gamble, to take that risk, but he did. And he's willing to take it again, when I think he probably could, in my opinion, restore his name, restore his credibility by fighting David Benavidez, by fighting Andrade, by fighting Charlo. But no, he wants to fight tougher fight in fighting Dimitri Bivol, which I respect. I respect that, because he wants to go and face the guy that beat him, because he feels that that's a tougher opponent, that's a tougher test, and he wants to have put the record straight. And if he does win that fight, it takes Canelo to different heights of popularity, and it takes Canelo's resume and career to a different level, because now people know how good Dimitri Bivol is. If Canelo can find a way to beat him, then Canelo Alvarez, for me, takes himself to legitimately beat him. Not it's a controversial, I'm saying legitimately beat him, soundly. Then Canelo Alvarez would put himself in the history books as one of the greats. However, he needs to, in my opinion, in order to be truly, truly great, if he can beat Arthur Beterbiev, I think Canelo would seal his legacy as one of the greatest fighters, especially of the modern era, one of the greatest fighters of the modern era, and one of the greatest of all time, depending on how big that list is. Top 30, top 40, top 20, whatever. But Canelo Alvarez will definitely seal his name in the history books, which he's done already. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer already, but I think that would put an end to all the haters that talk bad about Canelo Alvarez. There'll always be people that hate on somebody, because that's just the way the world works. But I think Canelo Alvarez can put a bed to a majority of the critics that question his resume, that question him as a fighter, question his skills, if he was to become undisputed at 175. There will always be critics out there, no matter what you do in the sport. As a sportsman, there will always be critics. But if he can become 170 undisputed at 175, I think he would cement his legacy as one of the greats. That's my honest opinion. So let's see how he gets on. I don't think we can write Canelo off, because it is Canelo. I think it would be wrong to write Canelo off. Canelo is one of the greatest fighters we've seen, especially in the modern era. His hunger and desire to continue to improve The fact that Canelo Alvarez always wants to grow as a fighter, continue to improve as a fighter, his hunger to fight the best, I think you've got to admire it. And like I said, Canelo wasn't the most naturally gifted fighter like a Roy Jones, like a Floyd Mayweather. These are much more naturally gifted. Canelo reminds me a bit like Ronaldo, where Canelo's not the most naturally gifted fighter out there. And yet, look, Terence Crawford, for me, skill for skill, is probably got more skills. You know, he's got faster feet. He's more naturally athletic, more naturally gifted than someone like Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is a guy that breaks you down, dismantles you, and takes you out. He's more of a powerful guy, relies on his power. He has got good skills. His footwork has improved, but his footwork isn't the greatest. Someone like Terence Crawford has got very good fast hands, fast feet. Canelo isn't naturally gifted like that. His body type isn't built for nimble feet. He's not a Pernell Whitaker. He's not a Roy Jones. These are Floyd Mayweather. These are more naturally gifted, more skilled fighters. Canelo Alvarez is a more heavy, you know, a more heavy-handed, strong, bulldog, you know, type of fighter. But he's improved his skills to a point where he is regarded as one of the best in the world. And this is all done because when we first saw Canelo, nobody thought Canelo was going to go on to do what he's done today. Because that's when you see someone like, when you saw Roy Jones, straight away you thought, wow, this guy's a phenomenon. You didn't have that same feeling with Canelo because Canelo isn't naturally athletically gifted like that. Canelo's had to work his butt off to get to where he's got to, you know. And that's the difference between someone like Canelo and Roy Jones. Roy Jones was very naturally athletically gifted. Canelo Alvarez isn't. So Canelo Alvarez has to work his way. And that's why I respect someone like Canelo Alvarez, because I think he's getting the most out of his ability and he's going above and beyond. Canelo Alvarez is doing more than what maybe people expected him to do when we first seen him. Canelo is going above and beyond, in my opinion. And that's why I respect him so much, because I think Canelo Alvarez represents majority of the people in the world, where most people in the world don't have freakish talent like Roy Jones. But what Canelo has shown, that through hard work, through dedication, and of course he's got talent as well. You can't get to that stage without talent. You can't even become world champion without talent. But Ronaldo as well, Cristiano Ronaldo's got talent. But how hard these guys have worked to get to where they're at is respect. You have to respect it. Because Canelo Alvarez is hard work, dedication, hunger, the desire to want to keep doing it over and over again. Yet the guy's got so much money. I think that's what I respect. I respected that with Floyd as well. The fact that Floyd was really good from the get-go. When I first seen Floyd was special. Canelo Alvarez was a work in progress. He's got better with time. And that's why I respect Canelo. He's on a different planet now. So I think Canelo Alvarez has proven, he's a proven fighter in world boxing. But if he was to beat Bivol and Golovkin, I wouldn't put him greatest fighters of all time. I think he would. I think if he was to beat Beterbiev as well and become undisputed, 100%, he is one of the greatest of all time, in my opinion. Depending on what one of the greatest means. One of the greatest could mean top 50, top 30, top 20. What does it really mean? But he is a special fighter and a great fighter. And if he was to win, which again I don't think he beats. I think he beat Golovkin. I don't think he'll beat Bivol. But let's see if he can. Let's see if he can do it. Let's see if he can beat Bivol. Then maybe go and fight Beterbiev. You know, I won't be surprised if he takes on that challenge as well. But yeah, leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.